Hi, thank you. Thank you for being here. And part of my speech really repeats introduction that I got, so I apologize in advance. But so as everyone has been saying, 78 years ago, the first A bombs were dropped over the skies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they killed more than 200,000 people in a matter of 4 months, and caused intergenerational traumas. So I'm here today because I'm a graduate of a high school in Hiroshima where 350 young lives were decimated on August 6, 1945. And almost every classmate of mine had someone in their family who was directly affected by the A-bomb. So out of over 200,000 casualties of the A-bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, an estimated 10% were Korean people who were forced to, forcibly taken to Japan to be forced laborers. And that's a part of the history that should not be forgotten. And I have my Korean friends here today, and I thank them for showing up. Thank you. So, I like to say every year, August 6, 1945 was a hot summer day. Just like today, but okay, here today is kind of overcast. But just imagine, it was a clear sky. And that made a tragedy really, much, much worse because they had a clear visibility over the sky of Hiroshima. So at 8:15 a.m., that was when the bomb exploded over the sky of Hiroshima, and the people were just starting their day. So please know that the girls that at my high school, they were just like your kids and your grandkids. The air raid warnings were going on and off all night, and the air raid warning, so when the air raid warning was called off that morning, these girls were disappointed. You know why? Because they had to go to school now. Because the sustained air raid warnings meant no school or no work actually. But since the air raid warning was called off just before the A-bomb was dropped, they had to go to school. So they were very, very disappointed. So I say that to illustrate the point that they were just like the girls here. So they were just like girls that you know in your life. During the wartime, fashion was something to be frowned upon. And there was no resources really available in Japan at that time to be fashionable. But these girls found a way to be fashionable in their own way. They managed to find a colorful fabric, and they sew this fabric inside their clothes, and that was their fashion statement. So that morning, when they saw the B-29, the American airplane, warplane, when they saw the airplanes in the sky, many of them described them as beautiful, and they dropped the bomb. The people of Hiroshima experienced the loss of humanity that day. Not only the bombing itself was inhumane, but what they have seen and what they experienced was beyond our imagination. And and that caused a deep moral injury. So that day, most of the survivors had to leave someone to die. And that someone, might have been their neighbors, their family members, their friends, their siblings. Many of them were trapped under the collapsed building, and they were screaming for help. But they had to save themselves too. So they had to tell these people that, I'm sorry, I can't help you, and run away, and left them to be burnt alive. So that's drawing by the survivor that tells the story. So that happened to so many people, probably virtually everyone of the survivors. So many had to live with the guilt of abandoning someone that day. Nuclear atrocities neither began nor ended with Hiroshima-Nagasaki though. That we have to remember. So the people, the indigenous people of this land have been affected by uranium mining and nuclear testing, things like that. And we don't have to look very far. In the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood of San Francisco, that area has been heavily contaminated because of the presence of U.S. military radiology laboratory. And the people are seeking justice even today. In the 90s, the San Francisco Bay had the highest incident rates of the invasive breast cancer in the world, highest in the world. And that's never talked about, right? So we have to remember there are victims of nuclear atrocities all over the world, not only Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So give back the human. The Hiroshima poet Toge Sankichi cries out in his powerful and famous poem, "No more sacrifices." That should be our battle call. No more sacrifices. We are not sacrificing others anymore, and we are not allowing ourselves to be sacrifices. We are fighting, when we advocate for things like nuclear-free world and no war, we are fighting to save our own humanity. And also, we are fighting to preserve our own dignity as human beings. Lastly, I'm compelled to call attention to TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company, and the government of Japan's planned dumping of radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean, right? Into the Pacific Ocean. So we are standing here today on the beautiful beach that's enjoyed by families and surfers. There are harmful radioactive nuclides in the water, such as tritium, that once it gets inside your body, it causes cell damage and damage to your DNA. So this is, another form of nuclear atrocity, and that should not allow to happen. So no more Hiroshimas, no more Nagasakis, no more Fukushimas, and no more sacrifices. Thank you.